This is the Technic motorcycle scale we know. But these are something completely different. These should be the largest Technic tires and rims LEGO ever made. Insane. Just look at them. Look at the size. Oh, and what about this? This one is not tiny either. What's up guys, this is Balázs from Racing Brick. Okay, let's try to calm down and start the story from the very beginning. Today I will show you a unique, totally one-of-a-kind LEGO Technic set. Nothing similar was ever released before. This is the 42130 BMW M1000RR, and I don't think you can really judge the dimensions of the set based on the box alone. Let me tell you something. This thing will be almost as long as the Ferrari 488, and as it is much higher, it will look way bigger. On the front of the box you see the bike itself with the obligatory logos. I have to say that the black background for the 18 plus category fits the build very much. On the back of the box you see a rear shot, a photo of the real beast in action and the dimensions. 45.5 centimeters long, 27 centimeters high. It is huge. A couple of extra shots below, but I'm sure you really want to see what's inside. At this point, unfortunately, I have no official information about the pricing or the release date, but as soon as it gets updated on LEGO.com, I will add this information to the video's description. There's an inner white box with even more parts. These rims are surprisingly light. There are 15 numbered bags inside with 5 building phases, an unnumbered one, 2 rims, 2 tires, the manual and 2 enormous sticker sheets. Really, I'm a bit afraid when I see stickers numbered up to 79. Is this a new record? The manual has tons of extra information this time, which is great. There's a nice double shot of the real one and the LEGO version at the beginning, then more details about the model itself, the first ever AMP-developed BMW motorcycle. A few words from the designer, who seems to be the perfect guy for this job as he has a background in motorcycle design. Here are the building phases, and here's the part list at the end of the manual. Now let's start building. The process begins with this chaotic assembly, flip-flop beams and pinholes everywhere. I assume this will become the core of the bike, possibly the gearbox. Yep, it definitely looks like a gearbox, and not a particularly simple one. So, things got quite complicated here, and now another challenge. I have to add this assembly to the other side, which means 11 pins and axles need to find their proper hole the same time. That's not an easy task for sure. Finally. And now I have to remove it as I forgot to put a red bush there. Take 2. Ouch, that hurts. So here's a chain, and based on the element ID it seems to be a new color, but I won't say it is new for sure, as it always turns out that LEGO already had this released with a different name and ID in the 18th century, so you will let me know in the comments if it is really something new. We've got 62 pieces and some spares in the box. A quite surprising return of the transparent engine blocks after the Batmobile. Unfortunately, I did not see any light-up bricks in the box this time. I'm sure these were not chosen for the sake of accuracy, but rather to give a better visibility on the pistons once the model is built. So, the gearbox is finished, time to do a test. Unfortunately, LEGO does not seem to provide any information about the gearbox in the manual, or any ways to verify if and how it works. It's quite a shame. After that great attempt with augmented reality in the Zetros app, they turned to be more useless implementations with the recent pullbacks. I think it would be much better to use it for educational purposes and explain how such gearboxes work. Anyway, let's attach a motor as usual and see what's going on. Luckily we can use this yellow axle that is driven by the chain and attach a motor to that side, simple as that. I think it will be better to remove the chain actually, as it only causes issues. So, it works much smoother without it. As you see, there's a stepper mechanism to switch between the gears. That white small beam acts as the stopper to limit the rotation of the stepper. We have 4 gears. We start with the first gear, then neutral, then second, and third. The original bike has 6 gears according to the datasheet, but I guess here there was simply no space to implement one. My only issue with this setup is the usual one with all the gearboxes in official LEGO sets. According to LEGO's concept, the engine is slowest in the lowest gear, and it becomes faster in higher gears. If you think about it, at a constant wheel speed it should be the opposite. If you roll at a certain speed and you are in first gear, without any acceleration, if you switch to second, then the engine will run slower. Anyway, the gearbox otherwise works pretty reliably. It did not get jammed or anything similar. Too bad it will be almost completely hidden in the build. So it's time to cover the gearbox. Here comes the radiator and a bunch of other details, and we are at the end of Bags 1. I would lie if I said I totally understand the purpose of this assembly, but we have some very specific parts used with some wacky geometry, so I'm sure everything has a purpose, and it's quite sturdy as well. Okay, this is how it connects to the main assembly, and after some adjustments here and there, everything lines up perfectly. Even these wobbly arms connect like a charm at the top. I'm impressed. A surprisingly yellow piece, this is the stand for the bike. There's a UCS style plaque on the front with all the impressive data about the BMW. This assembly is not part of the stand. We use the stand to build the new section of the motorcycle. This is a quite convenient way to build, and the assembly is still easily removable if needed. We built the basic frame with the rest of the parts from Bags 2, and now it's time to mount our assembly with the gearbox and the engine. It's a bit tricky, but everything finds its place, a few extra parts, and we are done with Bags 2. Now that we opened Bags 3, I think it's time to take a look at the new parts, as most of them are here. Let's see the tires and rims first. For comparison, here's the well-known Technic motorcycle rim and tire. The tire's diameter is 94 mm, the rim is 75. There was a recent wider one on the Harley. The diameter is similar, but the width is 38 mm. Now here are the new ones. I have no official measurements, but according to my little tool here, the diameter of the front one is 133 mm, the width is 27, the rear one's diameter is 145, and the width is 43 mm. The rim is 113 mm and 30 mm wide. Just another quick comparison to show the size. These are the well-known enormous power puller tires. They almost fit in the new ones. We also have these new two-tone brake discs. They are super detailed and look awesome. For comparison, here are the ones from the Ducati, but we also have one of these small ones in this set. Now here are these massive shock absorbers for the telescopic fork. The extended length is 80 modules and the compressed one is 15 modules. There are 6 mounting holes at the bottom with a gap between them. And here's this cool looking shock absorber for the rear. For the first sight it seems to have an external spring, but it's only a fake one for the show. It's made of plastic. The real metal spring is inside, and I have to say that this requires quite a lot of force to compress. It somewhat reminds me of this old adjustable shock absorber, but it's even harder than this one. The length of the new one is 9 modules when it's uncompressed, and the travel is around 1.5 modules. There's one special part left, these new wheel hubs that seems to be made to fit the shock absorbers. Now let's get back to the build. Here is the swing arm, and it has a quite tricky connection to the main assembly. The other side of the swing arm is also challenging, and you need to make sure that the chain is also aligned properly. There's a gear added to the chain now, and we've got the task of mounting this lift arm to those pins and axles, partially below the chain. Not an easy feat for sure. Mounting the shock absorber at the rear does not become easier than the previous steps, and there's a weird warning in the manual. The numbered side of those excellent pin connectors should face upwards here, which is actually downwards. Why is this so important? Simply to make it look clean from the top? Interesting attention to detail. After the rear fender, here comes the huge wheel. Pay attention to the proper tire and rim orientation, because taking it apart is a huge pain. Believe me, I tried it. The superstructure for the different body elements is taking shape. Here comes the massive and very sturdy fork. I should probably stop saying massive since everything is huge in this build. The front wheels are also ready with the wheel hubs. Now this build really starts to look like a motorcycle. The final touch from Bags 3, the blue brake calipers with the M logo. The bike looks really cool at this stage without the covers and accessories. I really like the look. You can understand the reason for the transparent engine blocks. Since they are barely visible at this point, we really need that transparency to see the effect of the gearbox or to be able to see the pistons moving. I managed to survive the first 3 bags with only a few stickers, but I'm afraid the rest of the time will be spent mostly with them. Well, okay, there are pieces as well. The rear end and the seat area get some nice details. Here's the top of the fuel tank, and that sharp edge looks a bit weird. This assembly might not look quite interesting for the first sight, but it has so many interconnecting layers of half beams and specific parts. I'm sure it took the designer some time to achieve this structure. Honestly, I had no idea that trans-clear Nexo shields are available, but they look pretty cool. But it's a bit weird to cover it with this non-transparent sticker for the headlights. This is how they look in place. The instructions are a bit cryptic here for me, but I assume this means I can choose from these 3 dashboard tiles. Here's another brand new piece, a unique transparent plastic windshield. Finally, it's not soft plastic, but I really wonder if it can be used on any other builds. The whole assembly goes in place. It looks very convincing. Time to open the last bags. We have again lots of panels and even more stickers to apply. Some parts are especially challenging to put in place without demolishing half of your build. At least I had some issues. The system assemblies in the middle for the radiator are quite easy to knock off. It's a bit frustrating. Here comes the front fender. I'm sure some people will be disappointed as it is not a special curved piece. The top is pretty flat. Even more panel fairings to cover the side. These look a bit chaotic for the first sight. I wonder how the final assembly will look like. BMW is pretty proud of these so-called M winglets. I'm not sure they look exactly like this on the real one. A few more panels to put in place. Then comes the exhaust, which is a bit challenging again. Then the same panels for the other side, and the build is finished. There's one last item to assemble, another stand, and we are really finished. So, here is our BMW M1000RR in its full glory. It is simply huge compared to anything I've seen previously on two wheels. Plenty of details to observe, and a zillion stickers of course. I think the overall look is good, looks very impressive from a certain distance. The usage of system bricks is pretty limited, most of them are used for the radiator, the rest is mostly on the fuel tank. First I thought these vertical edges on the top of the fuel tank are weird, but checking the official photos I sort of see the lines the designer tried to replicate. There's one major item that is totally missing from the LEGO version. There are no rear view mirrors. Honestly, I don't really understand this decision. The scale would permit something nice, but they are simply not here. Another challenging area is the front with the winglets and the front fender. As you see, all the shapes are there, but the proportions are quite different. This is obviously a LEGO Technic set and not a scale model, so there will be differences, but I'm afraid the size and angle of those winglets will make some people unhappy, and also the lack of a proper fender piece. Another thing that caught my attention, the angle of the exhaust. On the original one, the end is right above the rear wheel. On this one, it sits much lower. Actually, it's quite easy to have it corrected. Just put this pin in the hole above it. You see? Much better. There are some nice minor details like the brake with the rubber piece below it, although it also moves up as well. The interchangeable dashboards are also a nice touch. About the functions, well, let's make something clear first. This is a display piece, a LEGO Technic statue with moving parts inside. It has steering, front and rear suspension, a functional gearbox and an engine, but all these are there mostly for the building experience. Of course, it is cool to show them to your friends, but that's pretty much all. And I'm not saying this because it is something bad, just really don't expect any play functions here. The build itself is quite challenging, by the way, really lives up to the 18+ tag. It might be even frustrating occasionally, and it's definitely not for you if you don't like stickers, but a nice Technic experience altogether. The end result is certainly very impressive. If you like bikes, then I'm sure you will like this as well. And if you're not happy with the paneling, then you can go back to the naked version. I think it looks even better. Here's a quick comparison with two LEGO motorcycles that probably had the highest piece count until now, the Creator Expert Harley and the Technic Ducati. Just look how tiny they are compared to the BMW. It looks much better next to the Lamborghini. The purpose and the build experience is something similar. So, all in all, I think it is a really nice set, a good building experience, an impressive display piece, but as the 18+ label indicates, it is certainly not something to play with. It's definitely not flawless, has some weird proportions here and there, but I'm sure a lot of people will like it, and the exciting new parts will also make it popular. I'm really curious if this is the first item of a future series, similar to the 1/8 supercar lineup, but I assume LEGO did not develop these huge tires and rims for a single model, so you can start to assemble your two-wheeled wishlist for the future. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. I also suggest to subscribe with notifications, as more LEGO Technic reviews can be expected besides my other LEGO RC videos. See you next time, bye bye.